The great ship floated in the darkness of space like a silver monument to power. Its name was Eternal Harmony, and it served as the flagship for the Galactic Council. Inside its massive halls, Ambassador stood before the council chambers, his 6 eyes scanning the assembled leaders of 100 worlds. "The dead sector remains quiet," said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "No activity detected for 3,000 years. The dead sector, that was what they called it now, the place where Earth once lived, the place where humanity died. Most council members barely remembered why Earth had been destroyed. It was ancient history, a footnote in galactic records. 3,000 years was a long time, even for species that lived for centuries. The vote had been clear back then. Humanity was too dangerous, too aggressive, too ambitious. They expanded too fast. They asked too many questions. They refused to accept their place in the galactic order. So the council made a decision. Antimatter weapons turned Earth into dust. Humanity's colonies were hunted down and eliminated. It took 50 years to complete the task, but when it ended, humans were gone, extinct, erased from the universe. Or so they thought. Far from the Council's gleaming flagship on the edge of known space, a small salvage ship drifted between dead stars. The ship's name was Silent Wind, and its captain was a man named Jin. Jin sat in his command chair, watching the scanner display with dark eyes. He was tall and lean, with gray streaks in his black hair despite being only 45 years old. His face showed no expression as he studied the readings. "They're right on schedule," said Park from the station beside him. She was younger than Jin, maybe 30, with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. "The Council patrol will pass through Sector 7 in 20 minutes. "Good," Jin said quietly. "Is the package ready?" "Ready and waiting," confirmed Li Wu from engineering. Wu was the oldest of the three, his face lined with age and experience. He had spent his entire life maintaining technology that should not exist anymore, technology from a dead world. Jin pressed a button on his console. "All crew, this is the captain. Today we begin. What we do now, we do for Earth. We do it for the 8 billion who died. We do it for the truth." The crew of the Silent Wind knew what that meant. Every person on this ship had been born in hiding, raised on stories of a world they would never see. They were the children and of survivors who had escaped Earth's destruction. For 3,000 years, their ancestors had hidden in the dark spaces between stars, in dimensions the Council did not know existed, waiting and planning and preparing. Now the waiting was over. "Deploy the package," Jin ordered. Wu's fingers moved across his controls. From the Silent Wind, a small object shot into space. It looked like an old data cache, the kind that drifted through space after ships were destroyed. Nothing dangerous, nothing worth investigating closely. Except this one was special. 20 minutes later, the Council patrol ship arrived. It was a standard cruiser, crew of 40 armed but not expecting trouble. This sector had been empty for centuries. The patrol was routine, boring even. The ship's sensors detected the floating data cache immediately. "Captain, we have something," said the sensor officer. "Looks like an old storage unit, might be valuable." The patrol captain shrugged. "Bring it aboard. Maybe we'll get lucky and find something worth selling." The cache was pulled into the cargo bay. A technician connected it to the ship's computer system to read its contents. That was the moment everything changed. The virus inside the cache activated instantly. It spread through the patrol ship systems faster than any defense could stop it. But it did not destroy. It did not disable weapons or life support. It simply displayed a message. On every screen throughout the patrol ship, words appeared in the old Earth language. "We remember, we return." The patrol captain stared at the message, confusion turning to horror as he understood. "Get that thing off our system, now." But it was too late. The virus had already transmitted itself to every council ship within range. Then those ships transmitted it to others. Within an hour, the message appeared on 100 vessels. Within a day, 1,000. The virus could not be stopped or deleted. It simply kept showing the same words over and over. We remember, we return. Back at the Council flagship, alarms screamed through the halls. Ambassador ran to the security center, where Director stood frozen before a wall of displays. Every screen showed the same message. "What is this?" demanded. "Some kind of joke?" A turned to face him. She was from a species that could see in multiple spectrums, and right now her eyes showed colors that meant fear. "It's not a joke. I've traced the virus origin point. It came from the dead sector." "That's impossible. Nothing lives there." "I know what the records say," A replied, her voice tight. "But this virus is using technology we don't have. The code structure is completely alien to us, except—" She paused, pulling up old files that had been sealed for 3,000 years. "Except it matches human programming architecture." The room went silent. Felt his blood turn cold. "No, we eliminated them. Every last one, we made certain." "Apparently we did not," said. She pulled up the patrol ship's sensor logs. "They wanted to be detected. This was deliberate. They left the data cache where our patrol would find it. They wanted us to know." "Know what?" "That they survived, that they've been out there all this time, and that now," she gestured at the message filling every screen, "now they're ready to act." Stared at those words. We remember. We return. 4 simple words that changed everything. For 3,000 years, the Council had believed humanity was dead. They had moved on, forgotten, built their civilization without worry. But humanity had not forgotten. Somewhere in the darkness they had survived. They had waited. They had planned. And now they were announcing their presence. The question was why? Why reveal themselves now? What had they been preparing for all these centuries? In the dead sector, aboard the Silent Wind, Jin watched his screens as reports came in. The virus had spread perfectly. Every major Council fleet had received the message. "First move complete," said with satisfaction. "They know we exist now." Jin nodded slowly. "Good, let them wonder, let them worry, let them remember what they did." He stood from his chair and looked out at the stars where Earth once shone. "Our ancestors built monuments and wrote books so they would be remembered. The Council took all of that away, but they could not take away our memory. They could not take away our hunger for justice." "What's our next move?" asked Wu. Jin smiled, but it was not a kind expression. "We show them that humanity did not just survive. We show them that we became something they should fear. We show them that 3,000 years was enough time to prepare." He turned back to his crew. "Send word to the fleet. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Across the hidden dimensions where humanity's survivors had built their secret civilization, ships began to move. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Each one crewed by descendants of Earth who had never seen there, but had never forgotten it either. The Council had destroyed Earth 3,000 years ago. Now, finally, Earth's children were ready to respond. And they would make certain the galaxy never forgot what happened when you tried to erase humanity from existence. The hunt had begun. 3 months had passed since the first message appeared. 3 months of fear spreading through the Galactic Council like poison in water. At first, the Council leaders tried to dismiss it as a hoax. Some rival faction playing games, they said, an attempt to scare them. But then the incidents began. A weapons test on a Council battleship went wrong. The targeting system malfunctioned and nearly fired on friendly ships. Engineers found nothing wrong with the hardware, but the software had been changed. Just slightly, just enough to cause problems. A supply convoy lost its way in hyperspace. The navigation computers showed the correct route, but the ships ended up 3 sectors away from their destination. Supplies meant for a military base floated uselessly in empty space. A communication relay station went silent for 6 hours. When it came back online, all the stored messages had been deleted except for one. The same message from 3 months ago: "We remember, we return." None of the incidents caused deaths. No ships were destroyed, but the pattern was clear. Someone was playing with the Council's technology like a child plays with toys. Someone who could access their systems whenever they wanted. Director stood in her office, surrounded by reports and data streams. She had not slept properly in weeks. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that message. "They're testing us," she said to Ambassador. "Each incident shows us how vulnerable we are. They can reach our weapons, our navigation, our communications. They can touch anything they want." Looked older than he had 3 months ago. "Have we tracked their origin point?" "No, the attacks come from nowhere. It's like fighting ghosts." Pulled up a star map showing the incidents. "But there is a pattern. All the affected ships were operating near the outer rim, far from Council core worlds." "You think they're hiding out there?" "I think they want us to believe that," said carefully. "But humans were clever. If they survived this long, they did not do it by being predictable." She did not know how right she was. In a hidden base buried inside an asteroid, Commander Dongmin studied the same star map from a different perspective. He was younger than Jin, barely 30, but he commanded humanity's stealth fleet with cold precision. "The Council is moving forces toward the outer rim," reported Han Bin, the base's chief scientist. She was small and quiet, but her mind was brilliant. "They think we're hiding in the frontier regions." "Good," Dongmin said. "Let them waste resources searching empty space. Meanwhile, we continue operations in their core territories." "Are you sure this is wise?" asked Bin. "We're provoking them. Eventually they'll respond with force." "That's exactly what we want. When they strike, they'll reveal how much they've learned about us. Right now we're invisible. We need to know what they actually know before we escalate." Bin nodded, but worry showed in her eyes. She had spent years developing new technology for humanity's fleet. Technology that merged human minds with quantum computers, allowing faster reactions and better coordination than any AI. But technology could not protect them if the full Council military mobilized against them. On the silent wind, Jin received reports from across human operations. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Council was confused, frightened, but not yet desperate enough to do something stupid. "We need to push harder," said. She stood by the navigation console, arms crossed. "Fear is not enough. We need them to feel what Earth felt: terror, helplessness." "Patience," Jin replied. "We've waited 3,000 years. We can wait a few more months. Every day we wait, they might discover our bases, our people. We should strike now while we have surprise." Jin looked at her steadily. "And what would you have us strike? Council civilian worlds, innocent people who were not even born when Earth died. Their ancestors killed ours." "That's exactly the logic they used to justify destroying Earth," Jin said quietly. "We're better than that. We have to be." Said nothing, but her jaw was tight. Jin understood her anger. He felt it too, burning in his chest every moment of every day. But anger without control was just destruction. They needed to be smarter than their enemies. "We're not here to become monsters," Jin continued. "We're here to make sure the truth is known, to make sure justice is served. There's a difference." Before could respond, Wu called out from his station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's on an old Earth frequency, one we haven't used in centuries." Everyone on the bridge went still. An old Earth frequency meant someone who knew human codes. But who? "Put it through," Jin ordered. The speakers crackled with static, then a voice spoke in the ancient Earth language. "This is Admiral Chinsha of the Council Third Fleet. I am broadcasting on an unsecured channel because I want you to hear me. I know you're listening." Jin's hand moved to cut the transmission, but something made him pause. The voice continued. 3,000 years ago, my grandmother voted against Earth's destruction. She was one of 3 council members who said it was wrong. She was overruled. She spent the rest of her life trying to expose what really happened, and she was silenced for it. Leaned forward. It's a trap, it has to be. But Admiral Chinzha kept talking. I know where the real records are kept, the unedited files, the evidence of what was truly done to your world. If you want justice, you need those files. I can tell you where they are, but we need to meet. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Jin spoke. What do we think? Obviously a trap, said immediately. Maybe, Wu countered. But what if it's not? What if there really are council members who opposed what happened? We've always assumed they were all guilty. Most of them are, shot back. And even if this admiral is telling the truth, she's just one person. One person can't change what the council did. Jin thought about it. 3,000 years of planning had been built on one assumption, that all council species were responsible for Earth's death, that they all deserved to pay. But what if that was not completely true? Find out everything you can about this Admiral Chinzha, he ordered. Her history, her record, her family. I want to know if she's being honest. Over the next 2 weeks, human intelligence networks worked quietly to investigate the Admiral. What they found was surprising. Chinzha's grandmother had indeed voted against Earth's destruction. She had written dozens of reports challenging the official narrative. She had been demoted, transferred to remote postings, and eventually retired in disgrace. Admiral Chinzha herself had a strange career. She advanced through the ranks despite her family's reputation. She commanded respect from her crews, but she had never received a prestigious posting, never been promoted to the High Council. It was as if someone wanted to keep her at arm's length. She might be legitimate, Wu said after reviewing the data, or she's an incredibly well-prepared plant. There's only one way to find out, Jin said. He made a decision that would change everything. Set up a meeting, but we do it on our terms in a location of our choosing, and we bring enough firepower to level a planet if this goes wrong. 2 days later, Jin found himself standing in a small room on a neutral space station. The station floated in no man's land between Council territory and the Outer Rim. His crew had checked every system 3 times. 30 human ships waited in stealth mode nearby, ready to destroy the station if necessary. The door opened, and Admiral Chinzha entered alone. She was taller than Jin expected, with blue-gray skin and large eyes. She wore a council military uniform but no weapons. She looked at Jin for a long moment. You look like the pictures, she said quietly. From the old files, you look human. I am human, Jin replied. We survived. I'm glad, and she sounded like she meant it. What was done to your people was evil. My grandmother knew it. I know it. Not everyone in the council supported the decision. But they went along with it. Yes, to their eternal shame. Chinzha reached into her uniform and pulled out a data chip. This contains the location of the Obsidian Archive. It's a secret facility where the council keeps records they don't want public. Everything about Earth's destruction is there. The real reasons, the real debates, the evidence of what was taken from your world before it was destroyed. Jin took the chip carefully. Why are you helping us? Because the lie has gone on long enough. Because my grandmother spent her life trying to expose it and failed. Because I believe in justice. Chinzha met his eyes. And because if humans are planning revenge, I'd rather you knew the full truth first. Maybe it will change what you decide to do. Nothing will change what we decide, Jin said coldly. Maybe, but you deserve to know why your world really died. It wasn't because you were aggressive. It wasn't because you expanded too fast. There was something on Earth, something the council wanted, and when you would not give it to them, they took everything. With those words hanging in the air, Admiral Chinzha turned and left. Jin stood alone, holding the data chip. Around him, 3,000 years of grief and anger seemed to pulse like a living thing, but now there was something else mixed in. Hope that the truth would finally be known. The Obsidian Archive was hidden in a place no one would think to look, inside the Council's own capital system, buried in the core of a dead moon. Getting there took 6 weeks of careful planning. Human agents who had lived disguised among Council species for decades were activated. One of them was a man named had spent 20 years pretending to be a half-breed merchant. He changed his appearance, learned alien languages perfectly, and built a reputation as someone forgettable. No one suspected that the quiet trader who moved through Council space was actually human. No one looked at him twice. Now he stood on a transport ship heading toward the capital, carrying equipment that sensors could not detect. In 3 days, he would help humanity steal the truth. On the silent wind, Jin gathered his senior staff. The data chip from Admiral Chinsha had proven genuine so far. The location matched all their intelligence, but they still did not know what they would find inside the archive. "We're risking everything on this mission," said. "If it goes wrong, we lose our best agents. If it goes right, we gain leverage the Council can't ignore," Jin countered. "The truth is worth the risk." "Is it?" challenged. "We already know they destroyed Earth. We already know it was genocide. What more do we need to know?" "We need to know why," said Song Na, stepping into the conversation. Na had just arrived from the diplomatic fleet. She was humanity's chief negotiator, though they had not negotiated with anyone yet. "If we're going to build a case that the galaxy will accept, we need more than just our word against theirs." "The galaxy won't care," said bitterly. "They didn't care 3,000 years ago." 3 species voted against Earth's destruction," Na replied calmly. "The Vila, and the Keepers. They're still part of the Council, but they're not happy about it. If we can prove the Council lied about why Earth was destroyed, those 3 species might become our allies. Or they might just be watching to see who wins," muttered. Jin held up his hand for silence. "We proceed with the mission, is already in position. Commander Dongmin's stealth team will provide backup. We get in, get the data, and get out." 3 days later, under cover of a massive Council fleet exercise that conveniently pulled security forces away from the capital, made his move. The dead moon looked abandoned from space, but scanners showed the underground facility clearly. He landed his small ship in a crater and made his way to a hidden entrance. The security was impressive. Armed guards, automated defense systems, biometric locks. None of it was designed to stop someone who did not register on conventional scanners. Its modified biology, engineered by Han Bin years ago, made him nearly invisible to most detection systems. He slipped past guards like a shadow, downloaded security codes from isolated terminals, and made his way deeper into the facility. The Obsidian Archive sat in a vault 3 kilometers underground, stood before the final door, knowing that once he opened it, alarms would sound. He had maybe 10 minutes to get what he needed and escape. He triggered the door and ran inside. The archive was enormous. Walls of data storage stretched into the darkness, pulled out a specialized device and plugged it into the nearest access port. The device began copying everything: 3,000 years of secret files, classified reports, and suppressed evidence. 6 minutes passed, 7, 8. Alarms screamed through the facility, grabbed the device and ran. Behind him, blast doors started closing. Security teams poured into the corridors. He would not make it to his ship. But he did not need to. Above the moon, Dongmin's stealth team had been waiting. The moment the alarms triggered, they acted. One small ship directly above's location and fired a precision beam through the moon's surface. It created a tunnel just wide enough for a person. Jumped into the beam's energy field and was pulled upward through rock and metal, past the shocked guards, and into the waiting ship. Before the Council forces could respond, the ship cloaked again and vanished. The entire operation took 12 minutes. Back on the silent wind, the crew gathered around as Wu loaded the stolen data. There were millions of files, but one folder sat at the top, marked Earth Project, Final Classification. Jin opened it with shaking hands. What they found inside changed everything. The files showed the truth. Earth had not been destroyed because humans were aggressive. The Council had been lying for 3,000 years. The real reason was simple and terrible. Earth held ancient technology, equipment left behind by a precursor race that existed before any current galactic species. The Council knew about it. They approached Earth's government and demanded access. When humanity refused, saying the technology was too dangerous to share until they understood it better, the Council threatened war. Humanity still refused. They said the precursor technology could heal worlds, restore dead planets, cure diseases, and solve energy problems forever. But it could also be weaponized. They would only share it once they were certain it could not be misused. The Council did not want to wait. They did not want humanity to control such power, so they made a choice. Destroy Earth, claim it was because humans were dangerous, and take the technology from the ruins. Except the plan failed. When Earth was destroyed, the precursor technology was destroyed with it. The Council gained nothing but ashes and guilt, and to hide their mistake, they sealed away the truth. They killed 8 billion people for technology they didn't even get, whispered. She looked sick. No, Jin said quietly. They killed 8 billion people because they were afraid. Afraid that humanity would grow too powerful. Afraid that we would surpass them. The technology was just an excuse. Na spoke up. This changes things. With this evidence, we can turn the galaxy against the Council. The 3 species who voted against Earth's destruction will support us. Others will too, once they see the truth. What about the technology itself? Asked Wu. The precursor device, did it really get destroyed? Jin smiled for the first time in months. No, according to these files, a few samples survived. The Council searched for them but never found them. They assumed everything was lost. He looked at his crew. But I think we know where they ended up. He was right. Deep in humanity's hidden archives, stored in the most secure vaults, were 3 small fragments of precursor technology. Human survivors had grabbed them during the final hours before Earth's fall. For 3,000 years, they had studied those fragments, learned from them, and kept them safe. And now, finally, they had a use. Over the next month, humanity prepared their next move. The stolen files were sent to thousands of locations across the galaxy. Human agents, some who had lived undercover for decades, began distributing the evidence to journalists, politicians, and activists on hundreds of Council worlds. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On the Vila, protesters filled the streets demanding answers. On stations, workers went on strike. Keeper philosophers broadcast messages calling for the Council leadership to resign. And on dozens of Council worlds, citizens learned for the first time what had really been done in their name 3,000 years ago. Many were horrified. Some tried to deny it, but the evidence was too strong to ignore. Ambassador stood in the Council chambers, watching his world collapse around him. Riots had broken out on 30 planets. The 3 species who voted against Earth's destruction were openly calling for investigations. Even some of the species who had supported the genocide were now claiming they had been misled. "We need to make a statement," said desperately. "We need to calm the population." "How?" Directora asked. She looked exhausted. "How do we calm them when they've seen the files, when they know the Council committed genocide for greed and fear?" "We say the files are fake, propaganda from human terrorists." "They're not fake and everyone knows it. The authentication codes match. The signatures are, these are real Council documents and there's no denying them." Slumped in his chair, "Then what do we do?" "We prepare for war," said a new voice. They turned to see Fleet Commander entering the chamber. He was from one of the Council's most military species and his expression was cold. "The humans are not just exposing our past. They're building towards something. They want the Council to collapse. We cannot allow that. You want to attack them? Asked. We don't even know where they are. We know they're in the dead sector somewhere. We saturate the area with weapons fire. We use reality warping devices if necessary. We erase them the same way we erased Earth, but this time we make certain none survive. That would make us monsters, protested. We're already monsters, replied. The question is whether we're monsters who survive or monsters who get destroyed by our own victims. As the Council argued about their next move, Jin received a message from an unexpected source. The three species who had opposed Earth's destruction wanted to meet. They wanted to talk about an alliance. It's working, Na said with satisfaction. The Council is fracturing. If we can bring the Vila and Keepers to our side, we'll have the support we need. Support for what? Jin asked. We still haven't decided our endgame. Do we destroy the Council? Do we seek justice through some kind of trial? Do we just expose the truth and let the galaxy tear itself apart? We should destroy them, said immediately. They destroyed us. And become exactly what they claimed we were. Jin shook his head. No, we're better than that. Then what do you suggest? Jin looked at the star charts at the place where Earth used to be. We rebuild. We use the precursor technology the Council killed for. We restore Earth, and we show the galaxy that creation is stronger than destruction. That's crazy, said. It would take decades, maybe centuries. We have time, Jin replied. We've been dead for 3,000 years. We can afford to be patient now. But patience was about to run out, because Fleet Commander had convinced the Council to take action. A massive war fleet was being assembled. 10,000 ships, armed with every weapon the Council possessed, including forbidden ones. They were coming for humanity, and this time they would not stop until every last human was truly extinct. The Council fleet moved through space like a storm of metal and fire. 10,000 ships, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. They were headed for the dead sector, and they carried weapons that had been forbidden for 2,000 years. Weapons that could erase reality itself. Aboard the flagship Dominance, Fleet Commander watched the scanners with cold satisfaction. When we reach the dead sector, we fire everything at once. Saturate every cubic meter of space. Nothing will survive. What about civilian casualties? Asked a young officer nervously. There are settlements near the dead sector. There will be acceptable losses, replied without emotion. The Council made a mistake 3,000 years ago. They left survivors. This time we will be thorough. The officer said nothing more, but his hand shook slightly as he worked his console. Light years away, Jin received the warning from Admiral Chinsha. She had risked her career, maybe her life, to send the message. The Council fleet was coming, and it was bringing death. We knew this would happen eventually, Dongmin said. He stood in the command center of humanity's main base, watching tactical displays. We've been preparing for it. Preparing is different from facing it, Jin replied. He looked at the numbers. 10,000 Council ships against maybe 3,000 human vessels, and the Council had larger ships, better shields, more conventional firepower. But humans had something the Council did not expect. Activate the Phoenix Array, Jin ordered. For 3,000 years, human survivors had been scattered across hundreds of hidden systems. Each group developed different technology, different approaches, all coordinated through quantum communication that the Council could not detect. One group, led by Commander Xin Wu, had focused on weaponizing stars themselves. The Phoenix Array was a network of devices positioned around certain stars in key locations. When activated, they could cause stellar flares that would release massive energy bursts. Not enough to destroy the stars, but enough to create temporary barriers of radiation that would disable any ship caught in them. Wu, working from a hidden station near one of the array nodes, began the activation sequence. This is Phoenix Control. All units prepare for array activation in 30 minutes. But the Council fleet was moving faster than expected. They would reach the dead sector in just 2 hours. On the silent wind plotted intercept courses. We can't meet them head-on. They'll destroy us. We don't need to meet them head-on, Jin said. We just need to slow them down long enough for the Phoenix array to activate. How do we slow down 10,000 ships? Jin smiled grimly. We give them something they can't ignore. We show ourselves. It was a desperate plan. A small force of human ships would directly in front of the Council fleet, revealing their position. The Council would stop to engage them, giving the Phoenix array time to charge. It also meant those human ships would probably die. I'll lead the force, Dongmin said immediately. No, Jin replied. You're too valuable, I'll go. Captain. That's an order, Commander. You'll need to coordinate the main defense. I'll buy you time. 2 hours later, Jin's small fleet of 50 ships dropped out of stealth directly in the path of the Council armada. For a moment, the Council scanners could not believe what they were seeing. Human ships, right in front of them, not even trying to hide. Finally, said with satisfaction, destroy them. The Council fleet opened fire with enough weapons to glass a planet. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bursts filled space. But human ships were small and fast. They scattered, weaving through the weapon's fire with impossible precision. Han Bin's quantum-linked coordination system was at work. Every human pilot was connected through technology that merged their minds with their ship's computers. They moved as one, responding to threats before they fully materialized, executing maneuvers that seemed to predict the future. They could not win this fight, but they did not need to win. They just needed to survive long enough. 20 minutes passed. 30. Human ships fell one by one, but they kept moving, kept dodging, kept forcing the Council fleet to slow down and spread out. Phoenix array ready, Wu's voice came through on the quantum link. Activating in 3, 2, 1. Across a dozen star systems, the array fired. Stars flared brighter for a moment, then released waves of radiation that swept across space. The Council fleet, spread out in pursuit formation, was caught in multiple radiation zones at once. Shields failed, systems overloaded, ships went dark, their crews safe but their vessels disabled and drifting. The Council fleet had been stopped cold. Now, Jin ordered, all forces execute attack pattern. From hidden positions throughout the sector, 3,000 human ships appeared. They struck the disabled Council vessels with precision, targeting weapons and engines but avoiding life support. Humans wanted justice, not massacre. Within an hour, half the Council fleet was crippled. The other half retreated, dragging their damaged vessels with them. It should have been a victory. It would have been if had not been desperate. Activate the reality warpers, he ordered. His officers stared at him. Commander, those weapons are forbidden. They're unstable, they could. I said activate them, roared, we end this now. The reality warping devices were ancient weapons from before the Council formed. They could tear holes in space itself, erasing entire star systems from existence. They had been banned because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable. But did not care about safety, he cared about winning. One of the surviving Council ships activated its reality warper and aimed it at the nearest human settlement. A colony world called New Hope, home to 5 million humans, most of them children who had never known war. The weapon fired. Space itself screamed, reality bent and twisted, and then New Hope simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing, not debris, not radiation, just empty space where a world used to be. 5 million people ceased to exist in an instant. The shock wave of grief that hit the human fleet was almost physical. Through the quantum link, every human pilot felt the deaths, felt the moment 5 million minds suddenly went silent. Jin felt it too. He gripped his command chair, his face white with horror and rage. Aboard the base, Dong Min was already responding, coordinating an immediate counterattack. But someone else responded first. Bei Jin was one of humanity's few empaths, someone who could feel and understand the emotions of others even across vast distances. She had been monitoring the battle from a meditation chamber, helping coordinate through the quantum link. When New Hope died, the wave of death nearly destroyed her mind. But instead of breaking, something else happened. She reached out through the quantum link, not to the living, but to the echoes of the dead, to the quantum patterns that remained when minds were suddenly erased. And she touched something impossible. Earth. When Earth died 3,000 years ago, 8 billion human minds had been erased in moments. Their thoughts, their memories, their final moments had been burned into the quantum foam of space itself. The pattern remained, scattered across the dead sector like an invisible monument. Jin touched those patterns and heard Earth's final message. Not words, but a feeling, a warning, a prediction. The precursor technology Earth had protected was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a shield, a way to protect worlds from destruction. And Earth's last act, before the antimatter weapons hit, had been to hide the technology's activation codes in the quantum patterns of their own dying minds. Humanity had been carrying the key to Earth's salvation all along, encoded in their grief. "I know how to restore Earth," Jin said through the quantum link. Her voice echoed in every human mind. "The precursor technology can do it. We can bring our world back." For a moment everyone froze. Then Wu spoke up from engineering. "She's right. I've been studying the precursor fragments for years. The technology doesn't destroy, it creates. It can reconstruct matter from quantum patterns. If Earth's destruction left enough patterns in space, we could rebuild it." "How long would it take?" Jin asked. "With all our resources focused on it, maybe 6 months." "We don't have 6 months," said. "The Council will recover and come at us again with everything they have." "Then we give them a reason not to," Na said. She had been working behind the scenes, coordinating with the Vila and Keepers. "The Council is fracturing. Half their member species are already calling for the leadership to resign. If we can restore Earth, if we can show the galaxy that we're not interested in revenge but in rebuilding, we can turn this into a diplomatic victory instead of a military one." "After what they just did," demanded, "after they murdered 5 million of our people." "Yes," Na said firmly, "because if we respond with equal destruction, the cycle never ends. But if we respond by creating instead of destroying, we show that we're different from them. We show that humanity deserves to survive." It was the hardest choice Jin had ever faced. Every instinct screamed for vengeance. The Council had destroyed New Hope without mercy. They deserved the same. But Noah's right. Revenge would just create more killing. Justice required something different. "We restore Earth," Jin decided. "We show the galaxy what humanity can do, and we let them judge the Council for what they've done." "Some of them will escape justice," warned. "Maybe, but their civilization won't. The truth is out now. The galaxy knows what they did. That will have to be enough." Across the human fleet, the decision spread. They would not pursue the retreating Council forces. Instead, they would turn all their energy toward restoration. In the dead sector, where Earth once existed, human ships gathered by the thousands. They brought the precursor technology fragments. They brought the quantum patterns that Jin had recovered. They brought 3,000 years of hope and grief. And they prepared to do something no species in galactic history had ever done before. They were going to bring their back from death. But Fleet Commander had other plans. He retreated with his surviving ships, but he was not defeated. He was planning, and he would not rest until every last human was dead, no matter what it cost. The war was not over, it was just beginning. The work began in silence. Thousands of human ships positioned themselves around the empty space where Earth once orbited. At the center of the formation, Wu and his engineering teams assembled the precursor device from the three fragments that had survived for 3,000 years. The device looked simple, three crystalline structures that glowed with internal light, but the technology inside was beyond anything the current galaxy possessed. It could read quantum patterns in space, patterns left behind when matter was destroyed, and it could reconstruct that matter perfectly, atom by atom. The theory is sound, Wu explained to the assembled human leadership. When Earth was destroyed, the antimatter weapons broke down physical matter, but they could not erase the quantum information. That information is still here, scattered across this region of space. We just need to read it and rebuild from it. How accurate will the reconstruction be? Asked Na. Perfect. Every mountain, every ocean, every building that existed at the moment of destruction. We can't bring back the people who died, but we can bring back their world exactly as it was. It seemed impossible, but humanity had survived impossible odds for 3,000 years. They would manage this too. As the humans worked, the galaxy watched. News of what they were attempting spread across thousands of worlds. Some council species dismissed it as propaganda. Others hoped it was true. The three species who had opposed Earth's destruction, the Vela and Keepers, sent representatives to witness the event. And in the depths of council space, a trial was beginning. The evidence humanity had stolen from the Obsidian archive could not be suppressed. It spread too far, too fast. Citizens on dozens of council worlds demanded answers. Protests became riots. Riots became uprisings. The council leadership was collapsing under the weight of their own lies. Ambassador found himself standing before a tribunal of neutral species, ones who had not been part of the council 3,000 years ago. They had been invited by the Vela and Keepers to judge what had been done. You are charged with genocide, said the lead arbiter, a being of pure energy from a distant civilization. The evidence is clear. The council destroyed Earth not in self-defense but in pursuit of power. How do you plead? Looked at the assembled accusers. He was old now, tired. The lies had worn him down. Guilty, he said quietly. We are guilty of everything they say. We were afraid of humanity's potential. We were greedy for the technology they protected. We told ourselves they were dangerous, that we had no choice. But the truth is simpler. We destroyed them because we could and because we feared what they might become. The admission shocked the galaxy. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained that Earth's destruction was justified. Now their own ambassador was confirming the opposite. What punishment do you recommend? Asked the arbiter. Thought about it. He thought about 8 billion dead humans. He thought about 3,000 years of survivors living in hiding. He thought about New Hope, erased from existence just days ago. The punishment should fit the crime, he said. We destroyed a world. We should help rebuild it, not just Earth but everything humanity lost. We should dedicate our resources to restoration for as long as it takes. You speak for yourself, the arbiter noted. Not all council species agree. That was true. Fleet Commander still commanded forces loyal to him. He refused to surrender or face justice. Instead, he was gathering his ships for one final attack on the humans in the dead sector. If we strike now while they're focused on their reconstruction project, we can end this, told his remaining officers. We still have 3 reality warpers. We use all 3 at once, targeted at the dead sector. We erase everything in that region of space. Human ships, their device, all of it. Commander, that much power in one place could destabilize the entire sector, protested one officer. It could create a permanent rift in space-time. I don't care, we end the human threat today. But had made one critical mistake. He assumed Admiral Chinsha was still on his side. She was not. Chinsha had been gathering her own fleet, ships and commanders who believed in justice over genocide. When she learned of his plan, she moved to stop him. The two council fleets met in neutral space, and for the first time in galactic history, council ships fired on each other. It was a brief, brutal battle. Chin's forces outnumbered, and they fought with the desperation of people trying to save their civilization's soul. His flagship was disabled. He was taken into custody. The reality warpers were secured. Word reached Jin as the precursor device was being activated. The Council civil war is over, has been captured. The moderate forces have won. Shook her head in amazement. They're fighting each other now. We broke them. No, Jin said. They broke themselves. We just showed them what they were. In space around Earth's location, the precursor device hummed with power. Jin stood at the center of it, her mind connected to the quantum patterns. She could feel Earth's echo, the memory of a world preserved in the fabric of reality itself. Beginning reconstruction, Wu announced. The device fired, not weapons but creation beams. Quantum patterns were read, interpreted, and manifested. Where empty space existed, matter began to form. It started slowly. Individual atoms appearing, then molecules, then structures. The humans watched in awe as a planet began to take shape before them. First the core, molten and hot. Then layers of rock, mantle, crust, tectonic plates forming. Then water, enormous oceans filling the basins. The process took 3 days. 3 days of continuous creation as the device rebuilt Earth from quantum memory. Mountains rose. Rivers formed. Forests grew at accelerated speed as the device reconstructed every tree, every blade of grass exactly as it had been. And then came the cities. Buildings rising from nothing, streets forming, infrastructure appearing. 3,000 years of human civilization restored in moments. When it was done, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, perfect, alive home. The human crews stared at it through there, many of them crying. They were seeing a world most had only known through stories and dreams, a world they never thought they would see again. Jin stood on the bridge of the silent wind, tears running down his face. "We did it," he whispered. "We brought it back." The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Humanity had not just survived. They had accomplished something that seemed impossible. They had reversed death itself. The tribunal moved quickly after that. The verdict was clear. The council was guilty. But the punishment was not destruction. It was restoration and service. The council species who had voted for Earth's destruction would spend the next 1,000 years helping humanity rebuild. They would restore the colonies that had been destroyed. They would help repopulate Earth with ecosystems from seed banks the humans had preserved. They would teach the younger generations what happened, so the mistake would never be repeated. Some refused. A few species chose isolation rather than accept responsibility, but most agreed. They had seen Earth restored. They had seen humanity choose creation over revenge. It shamed them into action. The 3 species who had opposed Earth's destruction, the Vela and Keepers, became humanity's first true allies. Together they formed the nucleus of a new galactic government, one based on cooperation rather than domination. 6 months after Earth's restoration, the first humans landed on the surface. Ryu, a young pilot barely 20 years old, stepped out of her ship and breathed Earth's air for the first time. She had been born in space, lived her whole life on stations and ships. This was the world her ancestors had died protecting. She walked to a hill overlooking what had once been a major city. The buildings stood empty now, waiting to be filled with life again. She planted a tree there, the first new life on the restored Earth. "For those who died," she said, "and for those who will live." Back in space, the human leadership made decisions about their future. They would return to Earth gradually, not all at once. They would keep their hidden bases, their dimensional fold space sanctuaries. 3,000 years in exile had taught them caution. But they would also reach out, share their technology, join the galactic community as equals this time, not as victims or conquerors. Na became Earth's first ambassador to the new Galactic Union. She spoke before an assembly of 1,000 species, telling humanity's story, not with anger but with honesty. "We remember what was done to us," she said. "We will never forget, but we also remember that not everyone supported it. Some of you fought against our destruction. Some of you risked everything to help us find the truth. We honor that. We will work with you to build something better than what came before." The assembly voted to create the Treaty of Remembrance. Every galactic species would teach what happened to Earth in their schools. Museums would be built, memorials erected. The 8 billion who died would not be forgotten. And on Earth itself, in what was once the city of Seoul, a monument was constructed. It bore the names of all 8 billion victims, and it bore one more inscription. "Here lies the memory of those who died, not in war but in peace, not as aggressors but as guardians of something precious. They were destroyed for what they might become. Let us instead build what they could have been." Years passed. Earth slowly came back to life, not with 8 billion people but with millions who chose to return. Cities were, farms were planted, children were born who would grow up under Earth's sky. Jin retired from military service. He was an old man now, his hair white, his face worn with age and experience. He built a house on Earth, in a place his ancestors had once called home. One day his granddaughter visited him. She was young, full of life and hope. She had never known war, only peace. She looked at Earth's blue sky and asked, "Grandfather, was it worth it? Everything you did to bring us here?" Jin thought about that question. He thought about all the death, the suffering, the cost of revenge and justice. He thought about New Hope and the 5 million who died there. He thought about the 3,000 years humanity spent in exile. But he also thought about this moment, standing on Earth with his granddaughter, watching birds fly in a sky that should have stayed empty forever, knowing that humanity had survived and chosen to be better than those who tried to destroy them. "Yes," he said finally, "not the revenge, not the violence, but the remembering, the refusing to disappear, the choosing to rebuild instead of destroy, that was worth everything." His granddaughter smiled and ran off to play. Jin watched her go, then looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there in the vast darkness of space were the quantum echoes of 8 billion humans who had died 3,000 years ago. Their thoughts, their dreams, their final moments preserved in the fabric of reality. They had not died in vain. Their world lived again, their descendants thrived, and the galaxy had learned a lesson written in their sacrifice. You cannot erase a species by destroying their world. If even one survives, they carry their world with them, in their memories, in their dreams, in their determination to ensure that such a thing never happens again. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors seeking revenge, but as builders offering something better. The Council had tried to erase them for fear of what they might become. Instead, they became something the Council never expected: teachers of compassion, architects of restoration, and living proof that creation is always stronger than destruction. 3,000 years after Earth died, Earth lived again. And with it, hope for a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant to choose justice over expedience, rebuilding over revenge, and tomorrow over yesterday. The story of humanity's return would be told for generations, not as a tale of vengeance, but as a reminder that the most powerful form of defiance is refusing to become what destroyed you. And in the end, that was humanity's true victory.